Hi, my name is Brenda Quiroz, and today I will be discussing the theories, strategies, and accommodations that were used in the case study, on the case study that was done by Ms. Jane Rusa, who's a first grade teacher. The theories that were used in this case study were Vygotsky's sociocultural theory, constructivist theory, and the interactionist theory. We see Vygotsky's sociocultural theory when children are placed into groups of 5 to collaborate, share, and describe their objects. You also see this theory take effect when the teacher is scaffolding for those students who are struggling to come up with descriptive words. The use of real world objects to help them engage in conversation is where we see the constructivist theory come into play. This helps them explore sensory details, and they're able to make meaning with the words that they're using, as well as just develop more vocabulary through hands-on activities. And then the last theory that we see is the interactionist theory, and this when children are given the opportunity to come together into groups and to discuss what they brought to show and tell and what words they're using to describe it. So they're engaging in collaborative conversations using real world opportunities. The strategies that were used in the case study were thematic learning, group collaboration, show and tell, and interactive writing, and scaffolding. And so we see that the teacher used the theme of the fall season, and connecting the fall season with the 5 senses. And this helps just engage students more, in meaningful context. The next strategy that was used in this case study was group collaboration, and group collaboration helps students engage in discussion. It helps them plan and share their own ideas, which encourages language development and also listening skills. The show and tell aspect of this case study helps students bring in real life objects and use descriptive words for these objects, which helps build vocabulary. The use of interactive writing is another strategy that is being used in this case study, where the teacher is charting the descriptive words that are being used, and this provides a visual reinforcement for all students to see these words written down in print. And the last strategy that was used was scaffolding support, and this is where the teacher was modeling how to use descriptive words for students who were struggling to come up with their own descriptive words. Some accommodations that were used in the case study were scaffolding, multimodal learning, and peer interaction. When it came to scaffolding, the teacher supported students who were struggling coming up with their own descriptive words by modeling descriptive words. And then the multimodal learning aspect of the lesson was used when auditory, visual, and kinesthetic. And you can see this when it comes to the group discussions. The visual aspect were the charts that were being used, and then the kinesthetic aspect of this lesson was when students brought real world items to describe. And this type of learning helps promote language development in students who are English language learners and those students who do have speech and language delays. And then the last accommodation that was used is peer interaction. And peer interaction helps those students with limited vocabulary. And so when it comes to interacting in small group, these students that do have limited vocabulary can hear other students, and they're engaging in these discussions where they can gain more language development and vocabulary. Additional strategies that could be used to further the development of language is the use of visual aids like pictures, and this could be very helpful for those students who have emerging vocabulary. The use of vocabulary journals is another strategy that can be used, especially when students are learning new words and new vocabulary. They can keep that as a reinforcement for later use. Sentence frames and word banks can also be used to help them develop written expressions. And then writing stories is another strategy that students can use to help them develop narrating skills with the use of sensory details. This case study did a great job at showing us how language grows when children are able to engage in conversation and collaborate as well as learn from one another. This activity helped, it created a space for their words to have meaning and purpose, which reminds me of the Bible verse Ephesians 4:29, where it talks about how our words should be used for the good and to help build others up. And so this activity does a great way of showing us how students can engage in conversation and learn from one another, especially when it comes to language development. And it also shows how us as educators can help model and demonstrate to our students how to use new language and vocabulary.